Welcome back. In this video, we're going to look at the Android manifest and therefore basically set up everything so that our application can actually load data from the internet, because that's something we need to set up in the Android manifest file. So inside of your app, you have this folder called manifest, and there is this file called manifest.xml. So this file is still of type XML. So it's basically a way of structuring information. And in this case, it's structuring the settings and the different requests that your application has in terms of features and functionality that it wants to access on the phone. So for example, if you want your application to access the camera so that you can take pictures with the app, then you need to request those permissions from or inside of this Android manifest. You need to set that up. The permission itself will then be displayed to the user and he will be asked whether this request will be accepted or not. But in our particular case, for the internet itself, you don't need that, right? So every app nowadays has access to the internet or is allowed to ask for access to the internet and will automatically gain it. But in the past, you would have to specifically allow it yourself on the phone, but nowadays it's not necessary anymore. Anyways, so this Android manifest, you see it's of type XML, this XML file. So its version is 1 and the encoding is UTF-8. We have seen that before when we were converting our JSON file into an XML file, if you recall. So basically this manifest says, okay, it gets its namespace. This is basically like a library. This is the library for this file. And then it uses some tools, and that's where the tools are. And then there is this application. So the application allows backup. It has full backup content. It has a certain icon, which is this little icon. So you see here, you could modify which icon should be displayed. It has a name, which is in our case, recipe or my recipe app, I believe. Then there's the launcher round, being the round icon. So there are different types of icons, as you can see. Does it use right to left or left to right? Well, it does support right to left by default. The target API is 31 and so forth. So there are a bunch of things that are defined here. And then there is the activity that we have inside of our application. In our case, we only have the main activity. So if you ever wanted to add more activities, we would have to reflect them in here. And we're going to look at that later on. What interests us, however, is stuff that is here just above application and just underneath this closing arrow for the opening bracket of manifest XML. So the bracket opens here, or the manifest opens here, this tag, and the tag closes down here. So here I can add this uses permission. And this user's permission now, as you can see, has Android :name, and there are a lot of different permissions. For example, uses fine location or coarse location, so a broad location, or a very fine location, or uses the network state, needs to know what kind of network you're connected to, needs the Wi-Fi state, and so forth. But none of those are interesting for us. The one that is interesting for us is internet. So you can just enter internet, and then it will give you this android.permission.internet. And that is the permission that I want. So you need to close it after with a slash and then a greater than sign. And this will now add the internet permission to our application. And now our application will be able to load data from the internet, access data from the internet. That's what we needed this line for. Okay, we needed to trigger a network call, which we do, right? We have these calls where we access something from the internet. And there we are. And now, when we run this application, we run into an error still because I have a little error in my base URL. So whenever you are using an HTTP request, it's always good to have the full URL. So in this case, it would be https:// then // and then the URL of the link. Okay, so this www.theme.lab, so and so forth. So the best way you can do it is by copying this URL. You enter it in here and then you copy it again from here. So you mark it, you copy it. So what this will give you is, you see, the full URL, including the HTTPS. Now you need to get rid of this endpoint, so of this categories PHP, and then you have the URL that you need to use inside your app. So you can just go ahead and paste it in like that, and then you should be good to go. Now at this point, we can finally start our application and run it. I know it has been quite a while, has been a long video or a long day, but now you can see we do get our files, and you can see they are loading in as they are required. So if you scroll fast, you can see it, especially for the first iteration of executing the app. Now let me actually dock the application so that I can see when it is loading. So when it's restarting, there might be the loading screen for, yeah, we saw a very tiny bit, like a millisecond. We saw that there was this indicator that we have inside of our main view. Wait a second, not here, of our recipe screen. So here in the recipe screen, we had this circular progress indicator for a tiny little second, and then directly it got the state and it stopped loading. So it directly displayed the category screen. Okay, so a lot is going on. We have a very long flow of how the data flows and how everything is coming about. And I'll do a video just about that. You can skip that if you want to, but I just wanted to make sure that we go once again through the flow of how things are happening, so that you can really get another feel for how all of this code is interacting with each other. So see you in the next video.